It is 8 p.m. in the Eastern Caribbean, 7 p.m. in Jamaica, 6 p.m. in Belize, 11 a.m. in Australia, and 5:30 a.m. in India. Good day and welcome to this live series session on Industry 4.0 in the Caribbean, brought to you by Whiteboard Labs and the University of the West Indies Open Campus. The objective of this series is to understand how Industry 4.0 will affect each of us, not only data analysts or Internet of Things engineers, but more importantly, ordinary folks like you, non-technology folks like human resource managers, marketing managers, even housewives and students. As the online campus of the UWI Open Campus seeks partnerships with organizations that have synergies with its strategic objectives, and certainly Whiteboard Labs is currently one such company. On tonight's program, after we lay the groundwork, we will open the floor to you, our audience, on social media for your questions, to seek clarifications, and to raise any issue you have regarding Industry 4.0 with our facilitator. I am your host, Cleveland Sam, and the facilitator of this session is Dr. Rohit Shipstone, Chief Marketing Officer of Whiteboard Labs. Let me now introduce you to Dr. Shipstone. Dr. Shipstone is a serial entrepreneur and has co-founded 3 IT startups in India and the United States. And including in that is Collabozo Solutions Limited, a new age company focusing on solutions for Work 4.0. Dr. Shipstone also has a professional doctorate in management and e-business and a master's in economics, and is an active mentor and advisor for startups, especially in the entrepreneurial space. I can say so much more about our facilitator, but you will see some of that come out in his presentation. Dr. Shipstone, thank you so much for joining us this evening to share your wealth of knowledge about Industry 4.0. Before we start your presentation, can you tell us exactly what is Whiteboard Labs?
Sure. Thank you, Clive, and thank you for inviting me on this forum. Love to talk about Industry 4.0. What we do so Whiteboard Labs is actually a branding of a platform which has been created by a company called Collabozo Solutions, which I have co-founded. It is an IT company, essentially, but we are focused on creating employability through training, right? There's a huge issue today about how well can the industry take on fresh graduates, postgraduates, etc., without the need for training. And in India, it's become a very pertinent issue, and this is leading to a lot of unemployability. So the mission of Whiteboard Labs is to enhance employability amongst educated youth so that their entry into the workforce is smooth and is effective. And this enhancement is done with respect to the Industry 4.0 because that's where everyone is headed. And very few people actually understand where you're headed. So that's our objective.
Thank you very much for that explanation. And I'm sure the people in the Caribbean, I'm sure some of them are now probably Googling Whiteboard Labs to see exactly what you do. And audience, remember that you can post your questions in the Facebook comment section at the end of the presentation, and we will answer those questions for you. Dr. Shipstone, I am now going to invite some questions.
Sure. So I'll just share my screen, Cliff, and screen is visible now?
Yes, you're on.
Great. So good day once again, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. and welcome to the session which has been organized by UWI Open Campus and Whiteboard Labs. Today we will talk about Industry 4.0, but from a perspective of understanding what it is in very layman terms and how it affects each of us. What we will cover will be our agenda essentially is going. I think there's a problem. Yeah. We will understand what is Industry 4.0, how it affects each one of us, and what is it that we need to do. Because Industry 4.0 is not a technology, it's an industrial revolution and it is an economy. So, but before we get into the details, let us understand where it came from and where we are headed. So, if you all know, uh, there have been four industrial revolutions till date. We're in the fourth now, which is Industry 4.0. So, when we say Industry 4.0, what we're actually referring to is the fourth industrial revolution. The first one, which is the which has to do with the mechanical age, was towards the end of the 18th century, and it was mostly powered by steam and water to drive mechanical production, mechanical machines, etc. The second one, which was at the beginning of the 20th century, was where the industrial revolution went into production, mass production. And later on, you'll see that the second and the fourth have a lot in common in terms of the concept. So, mass production started happening to cater to mass demand, which brought the prices down and increased the demand. So, essentially, the second revolution was, very, very relevant to the growth of economies across the world. And then we came to the third industrial revolution, which was somewhere in the beginning of the 70s, wherein we moved into the digital space. So we had the advent of computers, of personal computers. The footprint of computing started coming down. Starting in 1945, a computer would house a whole building, and a more powerful computer now was housed in one room. And things came out, started progressing from there. But the most important aspect of the digital revolution or the third industrial revolution was the advent of the internet. And as we go further, we'll see why and how. And then today, we moved into what we call the fourth industrial revolution, which is based on a cyber physical system. Now, cyber physical means the marriage between the cyber part or the digital part of life and the physical part of life. So, if I say that I would like to marry my light bulb with my laptop, well, that is called the cyber physical relationship. But before we get into that, let's see how we define 4.0. And this definition is very broad. I've kept it broad for the sake of understanding. So, what is it's 4.0 is the digital transformation of manufacturing or production and value creation processes. What that means is that manufacturing itself, which is the hub or the core of business, has undergone such a massive change in relation to digitalization and the cyber physical marriage. Second, 4.0 is used interchangeably with the fourth industrial revolution, which I've just explained to you. And the one of the critical components, what it represents is one of the critical components of 4.0, which is the value chain. Value chain essentially is the back and the front of any business. Back means suppliers, front means customers. We will get into that as we go forward. And cyber physical systems actually form the basis of 4.0. So I gave you the example of a light bulb being interfaced with your laptop. Now imagine an entire factory interfaced or integrated with your laptop. And imagine that you could be sitting at your laptop and controlling production. Imagine that you could be changing designs which are being produced. All because your machine now, through a digital interface, is controlled by a laptop or by some other computer. That is the power of cyber physical. So, what is Industry 4.0? Given the background of the last slide, what I like to say and what I like to think is that, there are three main actors of Industry 4.0: people, business, and things. And in these three things, the most important are the people. People like you and me. Why people? Because business, which is being affected by Industry 4.0, is about people. We are buyers, consumers, which means that a business exists to service us. If you and I stop buying or consuming, there would be no business. Secondly, we are workers. We work in the business. We work for the business. We not only buy, we also contribute in terms of labor. And therefore, businesses need us to run those businesses. So that's the second aspect or dimension of our relationship as people with business. The third dimension, the first two dimensions are with respect to us individually. Third dimension is with respect to us as a society. And as a society, we create norms and practices within which industries and businesses have to operate. Their laws, their methodologies, their do's and don'ts. All that is created by society, which is us. So essentially, we as people are highly integrated with business. So over time, what has happened is that we have become a connected society. As a group of people, as we saw in the last slide, we are now connected because of the internet. And we've now become a connected business. We are connected as people. And now we are connecting things. The Internet of Things. So essentially, Industry 4.0 is about connections. That's one very important aspect of Industry 4.0. It is about an interconnected world. People are connected to other people. Machines are connected to people. Machines are connected to other machines. Businesses are connected to one another. A connected world, a completely deeply connected world. And when you are connected as a society, you become a driver of change. That society becomes a driver of change. Why? Because you're now you've created connected wisdom. How? Because when people are connected and constantly in touch with each other, sorry about that, in touch with each other, they are exchanging ideas, they're exchanging knowledge, and they're creating a larger pool of wisdom. Customers are interacting with each other. creating customer pools. And this is a well-known fact. If you want to buy a phone today from Samsung, go to the user groups, you'll get a very good feedback. Purchase decisions are moving from highly personal ones to social decisions. If I want to buy, again, let me take the example of a phone. I would go on the internet and start looking at the user groups. I'd look at Apple, I'd look at Samsung, I'd look at Huawei, whatever. And I would read the feedback that current users are already giving. I would talk to my friends, get their inputs. So the decision for me of buying a phone has now moved into sort of a platform where multiple people are giving their inputs and participating in my personal decision making cycle or process. Fourthly, peer pressure. My friend has bought a new car. I would like one too. My friend has bought a new phone. Maybe I should upgrade mine. Oh, that's all very well. That's nice. But the problem is that I want it now. Models are changed every 3 months or 4 months or 5 months. Today, what I bought will, become obsolete in 6 months. So if I want to buy, I want it now. That's called instant gratification. All these things have a bearing on 4.0 because the question is, if all these things have to happen, how are products going to be made? Everyone will be demanding something. How will I know what user groups are talking about? Where do I get my feedback? So in a sense, we as a society have actually contributed to the onset of Industry 4.0. Now, addressing that question, how will such products be actually made? They'll be made through connected people, connected businesses. And those connections will be horizontal, which means across organizations, across people, and vertical, which means within a company. Now, if you look at this diagram, which is there on your screens, you will see on the left side the horizontal value chain integration. Now, value chain basically means all the people, all the organizations which are working together towards one common purpose. And that's a very broad definition, I know, but I'm keeping it very simple for the for the understanding of everyone, somebody who may not be familiar, for them as well. So what do you see on the left? You have a supplier, you have the company, and you have the customer. Now all three are integrated, and that's what I meant some time back when I said the back and the front, everything is integrated. If I am a manufacturer, I am connected with my suppliers and I'm connected with my customers. How? Over the internet. I know what is being talked about in the user groups. I know people are maybe talking about some product which doesn't exist but which they'd like to have. If I do a deep data analysis of the customer groups or the network of customers, I can find out feedback of a product, and I can find out the dreams about a product as well, which helps me to design something new. I can also find out personal preferences. Now, if all of this has to be done, I need to have the flexibility to create and recreate at the back end in my manufacturing. And my manufacturing is dependent on my supplier, so he should be able to do that. And down the line. So today, if I want to have a design, a new design, I should be able to quickly design it, quickly order the parts or whatever raw material that I need, and quickly produce it, and quickly take it to market because of the instant gratification factor. So the mean time to deliver any product has come drastically down because of that. Now, if this is to be done, how do you actually do it? That's where Industry 4.0 comes in. There are technologies which can quickly help me to design 3D printers and productionize 3D printers. There are interfaces between machines and computers which help me to reprogram a manufacturing machine very quickly. It's called the Internet of Things. All this facilitates me to be able to satisfy demand, firstly identify demand and satisfy it very quickly. Yet at the same time, while I am creating sort of customized products for people, yet I have to do it on a mass scale. So therefore, I should be able to identify groups of people who want a similar thing and customize it according to a group so that I do not lose the economy of scale. At the same time, I am able to customize according to the demand or the need. This is where there's a bit of a cross connection between Industry 4, 2.0, where mass production started happening, and today where mass customization is happening. And that mass customization is enabled by Industry 4.0. So that's one aspect of the value chain. The other aspect of the value chain is internal. Within a company, sales, product development, planning, purchasing, marketing, logistics, support, everything now not only is linked to each other, but linked outside as well. The left part shows you the outside link, the right part shows you the internal links. And together, as a connected company, as a connected organization, you're able to service the demands of the market. So in a way, in a sense, in fact, more than in a sense, Industry 4.0 is an economy, an emerging economy, because business models are changing, demand demand is changing, how you satisfy the demand is changing, business is changing, business processes are changing, everything to do with an economy is changing. And today, we are looking at a customer-driven business, not business-driven customers. Gone are the days when I could design and produce something which I think would do well in the market, bring it to market, and then start convincing customers to use it. It's the reverse now. I need to see the market, understand through the chatter on the internet or maybe other data sources, and create products according to demand. It's not vice versa anymore. And that's what customized products are all about. So therefore, we are now moving into a demand driven production. Not that I produce and then I sell. Industry 4.0 is a recent phenomenon. But for people in the IT industry, I don't know if you know this, but back in the early 90s, Dell had a very similar business model. Dell did not produce and store. Dell was connected with its backend suppliers. A Dell customer would call in. He would say, look, I want a computer with 64 MB RAM. We used to talk about MBs in those days, not GBs, or 540 MB or whatever. He would give his configuration. The lady at the other end of the phone would be entering that into a computer. And while she was entering each part, a computer was getting designed. Because I may have taken a 540 MB, you may have wanted 1080 MB, I may have taken a 100 GB disk, you may have taken a 200 GB disk, etc., etc. I may have wanted with Intel CPU, somebody may have wanted with AMD CPU. So many thousands of different permutations, combinations. Out of those, the lady has entered one configuration, which becomes one product. And as soon as I have the purchaser has confirmed his purchase through his credit card or whatever, and she hits the return button, enter button, immediately the configuration would get deconfigured and orders would go out to the different suppliers immediately. It would go to AMD or Intel, something would go to Seagate or CDC or whatever, which cut down a lot of time. With the result that Dell could actually assemble a computer within 7 days. And you could have a custom made product, a custom made computer made according to exactly what you wanted within 7 or 8 days. I like to think, I believe in fact, that Dell actually was the precursor of Industry 4.0. Because what industry is doing today is what Dell did 30 years ago. So that's an example of a customized mass production. So what are the potential implications of this? What is needed? Robot assisted production, which means that I should be able to program the machine. Another machine should be able to supervise that machine or robot, in short. Maintenance should be predictive, because I can't afford for a machine to crash, then figure out what went wrong, then call the support guy, and then he takes like 4 or 5 hours or 4 or 5 days to get the machine up and running again. I should know if my machine is going to fail. If I know that, I can take corrective action and machine will not fail. So therefore, no downtime. No downtime means it's working, it's giving me business. It's adding to my business. Additive manufacturing of complex parts. Now that's a subject in itself. But as we get deeper into the complexity of 4.0, additive manufacturing becomes a very crucial and critical component of 4.0. Machines as a service. Today, we are all familiar with software as a service. I mean, you want to use email or you want to use XYZ application, you can rent it. You pay per month. You pay $1, you may pay $10, you may pay $0. Doesn't matter. But you're using it for the time you want to use it. You don't own it, but you're just a user. You're renting it. Big data, data analytics. I was talking about people connected on the internet, talking to each other, getting feedback, etc., contributing their ideas. All that constitutes data. Today, if I fall sick and I want to find a doctor, I'll go on Google and find it. But guess what? Google has recorded it. Everything about you and me is public today through the data that we have generated. Millions and trillions of GB of data. which is going to define or predict the future business. Because if you analyze that data, you can come to know, as a business, you can come to know what are the trends, what are the demands, what are the preferences of people, down to color, whether it's clothes, whether it's electronics, anything, whether it's bread for that matter. If a lot of people start Googling how to make bread with whole wheat, guess what? Some company sees that and says, okay, here's a huge demand for bread with whole wheat. So let's start making it. Production line simulation, smart supply networks. These implications is what will affect you and me, as we will see here. These are some examples of product evolution. We've taken four: Philips, Ralph Lauren, Medtronic, and Babolat. Quickly go through this. Look at it, what Philips is doing. It has connected the light bulb to your phone. So today, if you have a smart home, let's say you finished work, you're driving home, you want your air conditioner on, you can put it on through your phone. You want a cup of tea, you want to put on your oven, you want to put on your lights, you can do all of that through your phone, because things are now, appliances are now connected over the net to your phone. Look at Medtronics Health. Your glucometers are connected. Sorry. Look at consumers, Ralph Lauren. Look at sports. Every industry has a story about product evolutions in Industry 4.0. So while that was an example, let's look at the building blocks of Industry 4.0, and we've put it together here. Again, a very simple terms. I'm sure everyone understands these terms. But all this goes into 4.0, its evolution and its practice. Whether it's augmented reality or it's data analytics, simulation, and of course, one very important aspect is that when people are connected, when machines are connected, when everything is connected, you need security. So cyber security is a very critical pillar of Industry 4.0. I just called that out to make sure that everybody understands that and is sensitized to this fact that security is a very important issue, personally to people as well as to organizations. So this more or less is the ecosystem of the building blocks of Industry 4.0. And if these are the building blocks, what does it affect? The entire value chain. If you look at each of those hexagon figures there, they constitute a part of a business organization. And all this business exists to serve its customers, which is you and me. But to serve us, they need to do all of this. And each one of these boxes is impacted by Industry 4.0. So all aspects of the value chain, internal and external, back end or front end, everybody is impacted. And we'll see examples of this as we go forward. But keep this in mind. Any organization, big or small, Any manufacturer, big or small, each department, each part of that organization, each person in that organization either is already impacted or going to be impacted by Industry 4.0. Example one. Today, there are more than 100,000 robots working in Amazon warehouses. Look at 2016. There were less than 45,000. In 4 years, they've added more than double. There's a company called Siemens. Look at them. They've implemented it extremely well. Today, an implant can be produced within 3 to 4 hours as compared to much earlier times, 3 to 4 months, later on 3 to 4 weeks. It's now down to hours. That's what 4.0 does. That's how it helps. Trump, they are starting to make something called social machines. How? Because the machines are interacting with each other. Just as humans say, okay, I've done this part. Now can you finish this and do the rest? Machines are now talking to each other. No duplication, no process ending and process starting. It's a smooth transition. Machine A has done ABC, moves over to B, machine B does XYZ. Very smoothly. So, the reasons that we have already talked about and the examples that we have seen make it critical for the adoption of 4.0 across the world. Because of the impact that those things are having. Impact on business, impact on individuals, impact on society, on the economy, and in fact on the government as well. While I've not mentioned it here, but yes, governments will get affected, will get impacted by the processes, the business models, and the manufacturing processes of Industry 4.0. So, the question is, how does it matter to us? We are individuals. Yes, we are in a society. Yes, we are connected. Yes, everything that we've talked about is true. But end of the day, how does it matter to me? I mean, it's nice for me if I want something. Why it matters to me is this. Every aspect of every job in the world will get impacted. Whether you're in sales and marketing, whether you're in manufacturing, whether you're in support, whether you're, let's say, a storekeeper in materials management, or you look after infrastructure. You may think Industry 4.0 has nothing to do with you, but think again, it does. And the reason is 4.0 changes business models, changes business processes into a very inclusive kind of a setup. So therefore, what is the future of jobs? Will my job get taken up by a robot? I am not an engineer. I've got a very small job of looking after the store in my department. Will I lose my job? Who will do my job? Oh, I look after customer support. How does it matter? Well, it matters. And so we did a study to see what would be required of people to participate in jobs, to participate in the economy of Industry 4.0. And I will show you a report by the World Economic Forum, wherein we look at what is the future of jobs, in the sense, what is it that companies actually want. The pie chart shows you what is it that companies across the globe want today and what is the weightage. So if you look at it, domain expertise is only 28%, just 28%. Integrity and values, 27%, just 1% point down. The third largest, interpersonal skill and learning agility. Why? Because the time has come when you need to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Because Industry 4.0 changes like that very, very quickly. It's no longer months and days, or even hours, maybe. It may be less. So, if these are the kind of competencies, traits, or skills that any organization will require, we better accustom ourselves and retrain or train ourselves. On the bottom left, that's the World Economic Forum outlook. Look at what was predicted in 2015 and look where it is now. So number one is fine, complex problem solving, which is very critical in Industry 4.0, but very different to the normal one. Look at number two. 2015, it was coordinating with others, essentially to do with collaboration. Number two in 2020 is critical thinking. In 2015, number three was people management. Today, it is creativity. So you see how 4.0, the evolution of 4.0, the onset of 4.0, the advent of 4.0, how that is changing the workforce scenario, how it is changing the competencies required in the workforce. But what happens to the current workforce? This is what happens. 85% of jobs will be transformed in the next 3 years, which means if I'm doing X job today, 85% probability is I will not be doing this job as we see it today, but I'll be doing it very, very differently. I may be performing the same function, but my job will be very different. And that is why people need to go in for competencies training in addition to the degrees, diplomas, or whatever they're doing. Why do they need it? Because technology will take over most of the common tasks and jobs. Humans will need to adapt to working with machines rather than other humans. Machine to machine collaboration will be very high. Machine will talk to each other and we'll be required to manage them. So we are not going to run machines directly. We are not going to be the interface between two different machines, but we'll be sitting on top of them, hopefully. Now, the question comes, we know of something called artificial intelligence, wherein a machine gets intelligence or becomes intelligence to do a number of things on its own. But somebody has to give it that intelligence, and that somebody is humans. And as the evolution of machine happens, as the progress happens, humans will start needing to share their intelligence, share their domain knowledge with machines. And that is a competency in itself. Communications, you know. So there are n number of reasons. If somebody or anyone wants to remain relevant in the workforce, relevant in the economy, they need to get either they need to add either add competencies or get retrained if they're already in it. Of course, there are some competencies or some traits or some skills which are critical in 4.0 but limited to humans, some things that machines cannot do at the moment. Emotional intelligence, for empathy, feelings, all these machines do not have, but they make up the qualitative part of decision making, and therefore they are critical but limited to humans. So certain things will be required, certain things will change. So thank you. I'm at the end. Uh, Advice I can leave everyone with is keep upgrading your competencies and stay relevant. The moment somebody today stops unlearning and learning and then unlearning, their integration in the new economy will really be questionable. In case you need further information, you can get in touch with us or with UWI, and I think we'll be happy. Any one of us will be happy to address any issues or questions or any help that you need. So thank you very much, and over to you, Cleveland.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shipstone. Awesome presentation here this evening, really enlightening. And I have two questions on the WhatsApp already, but I have a few questions I want to ask you first. But let me just do a brief summary of what you did. You give us the context in terms of the history of the Industrial Revolution, starting from the first Industrial Revolution right up to what we call Industry 4.0 now. You also explain to us in very great detail what Industry 4.0 is all about. And really and truly, if I'm to use one word, it's really interconnectiveness. That is what is really happening there with Industry 4.0. And the fact that it has three main tenets that are, these are people, business, and things. You also gave us a very good explanation of what is meant by the Internet of Things. And I'm sure our audience who is viewing tonight have come away with a lot of information and details. But I want to ask you a few questions in terms of the application of Industry 4.0, particularly in developing countries like those in the Caribbean. And my first question to you is, what do you view as some of the low-hanging fruits that developing countries such as those in the region can take advantage of in this Industry 4.0?
Sure. So, see, if you look at the whole global landscape, different countries have traditionally and historically shown strengths in different areas, right? So, for example, at one point in time, India was one of the largest and most proficient business outsourcing BPO, destinations. Okay. Today we are no longer that, but at some point in time it was there. Right. Now, if I have a destination which is very proficient in, let's say, a BPO or BPO services, right? What do I need to do to stay relevant? I need to adopt and adapt to the new business process. You see, Cleveland, what is happening is Industry 4.0 is changing the very heart of business, which is your business model. Okay, and when your business model is changing, everything surrounding it changes.
Indeed.
So each country, any country or any region, which has a strength in some part of that business model, can very quickly learn about what is going to happen, how it is going to happen, and what they need to do to stay relevant to that part of business, whether it's the BPO part, whether it is customer support, whether it is development, whether it is manufacturing, whatever it is. You see, I'll give you an example, Cleveland. China is the biggest manufacturing today for the world, right? They're the manufacturing hub. Okay. Of late, you would have read and heard and seen that a lot of countries are creating a problem there. They're saying, look, why do we have to get everything from China? Why can't we manufacture ourselves, etc., etc. Right? It's a logical thought and a doable thought. So, what was China's response? I don't know if very many people noticed, but in China, the number of towers of 5G went up to a plan of 500,000. Do you know why? Because China is taking, jumping over the factories to 4.0 practices and technology. And they need to be connected to towers to be able to be managed from remote. So what will happen is China will start going to the component level instead of the product level. And the integration with 4.0.
Higher value.
Yeah, and it will enable them to work 3 shifts. They don't need to do 1 or 2 shifts. Because a factory manager can still work sitting at home. So the volume, see, at component level, your volumes has to be very high. They will do that. They will become component manufacturers for the world, and you'll see this happening. If I think I am right, I think you'll see that happening. So China is taking advantage of what you just asked. That as a region, how to take advantage of 4.0 and keep my business going.
Okay. All right. I have a question from WhatsApp, and I need to read it for you. It says, most people conceptualize industry as chiefly the manual intensive skills such as furniture making, food preparation, and not this technology merged with driven enterprise. How do we achieve the shift in understanding the mindset or changing the mindset that is necessary to bring society into Industry 4.0 thinking?
Very good question, actually. So it's like this. As a society, I talked about how will we as people and society participate in the 4.0 economy. And I think this question refers to that. Okay. The shift that is happening is actually already happened. Okay. Furniture, you talked about furniture. Furniture is now actually being produced in a more or less a custom or mass customization mode,
right,
by machines, by programmable machines. Pepperfry, I don't know if you've heard of this company called Pepperfry. They give machines, furniture in a disassembled mode, right? And you assemble it yourself, do it yourself kind of a thing, right? So each part is actually made through a programmable machine. Okay, you get a set of parts. So just as Dell used to manufacture, remember the example of Dell that I gave, they would take an order on the phone based on what you wanted, right? And they would then assemble, order and assemble and give it to you. But the only difference is in this case, they're saying you assemble it. Here's everything.
Okay.
Do it yourself.
Put it together yourself.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, how do we as a society, take that into our natural perception? That change is actually already happening. Do-it-yourself kits are already available. People are actually using them. Okay, you are per se ordering things. you want to buy a pair of spectacles, you can actually use augmented reality to check out a frame. People are already using this. So that change has come in. What people need to get accustomed to is the change in their jobs. As consumers, we are the ones responsible for bringing in 4.0, so we've adapted to it. But as workers, that's another story.
Right, we don't necessarily translate the fact that we are acting in the 4.0 mode as consumers into our jobs or into what we do normally.
Yes, because then it's a different setup that you're in.
Of course. I have another question for you from our Facebook page. It says the Internet of Things, though promoting smart and integrated communities, create huge issues with respect to privacy and security. What is being done to lessen this issue?
Okay, again, a very good question. And we did talk of security. Um, so let me give a background, a bit of a background here, Cleveland. I don't know how many people know it or see, there are two internets which are there in the world today. The internet that you and I know, and there's another internet called the dark internet, which you and I don't know. Okay.
The dark internet.
Yeah. So what happens is the dark internet is mostly now frequented by people who are not responsible members of society, and they tend to break into our internet, break through our security, pick up our data, pick up our identities for financial gain or other gains. Okay. Now, keeping all this in mind, countries are drawing up protocols for cybersecurity.
Right.
One thing I was shocked to to read just the other day that Mr. Trump, President Trump, has fired the cybersecurity expert of federal government at this point in time.
Why are you shocked,
No,
Dr.
where they are
Stone?
at their most vulnerable time, he's fired. Now, that is a major issue. Every country has a cybersecurity expert sitting with them today. Every country is drawing up readiness plans. So GDPR is one of them. That's evolved from Europe. Countries are free to follow it, right? But yes, if you ask me on a scale of 1 to 10, how ready we are, I would say we are at level 4. We have a long way to go, but we'll get there. I think we have enough fortitude to do it. But yes, we are still very vulnerable.
All right, great stuff. Another question from Facebook has to do with any recommendation you have for, you spoke about the need for persons to upgrade their competencies. Any recommendations for how they do that?
Yeah, so my favorite question. I think world over, people and training of technology of Industry 4.0 is very popular. Okay, I can do courses in artificial intelligence. I can do it in robotics, if I'm an engineer or whatever. Right? What very many people have not done is training in the business side of 4.0. And after 7 years of research, a university in Germany is the father of Industry 4 or mother of Industry 4.0. A technical university in Germany, it's called the Technical University of Munich. After 7 years of research, they came out with a curriculum for learning to live and work in Industry 4.0. That is the curriculum that UWI and Whiteboard follow to train people. It's called the Industry 4.0 Employability Certification. It has 64
Right.
modules in it. It takes about 8 to 9 months to complete. Very intensive course. And so I can recommend that. You could do that. And or you can also talk to people from UWI and get some further information if you would like.
Okay, great stuff. So the UWI and Whiteboard Labs, we are providing the platform for you to upgrade your competencies in anything to do with Industry 4.0. All right. While we wait on other questions, I have some questions myself for you. And
Sure.
I mean, you spoke about what China is doing, but are there examples of developing countries using Industry 4.0 technology, such as robotics and artificial intelligence and 3D printing and so on, to what I would like to call leapfrog the development cycle in terms of from developing countries to develop country status? Are there examples of developing countries doing this?
So let me give you an example which uh, would be hard to imagine. A country like Thailand, today they are equipping themselves so thoroughly because while they have not been on the map of world industrialization, they are trying to use 4.0 to get into that map. They are trying to leapfrog. They've already set up 2 industries. I forget the names of the companies. They're well-known companies. Bosch, I think, is one of them. I'm not too sure. But they're 2 major global companies who've already set up shop there. And the deal they've had with those companies is not only establish their factories, but share that know-how with the government so the government can help establish other factories. I know for a fact India is well on its way to do that, not only as a user, but as a technology provider. Because India has lost its position in the BPO space, they're trying to find another foothold. So India is trying to do that, and they're going to use that as a leapfrogging strategy to get in there. So I know of at least these 2, and of course Europe is going extremely fast on this, driven by Germany, and I'm sure the West Indies
Right.
will use it equally strongly and well.
Well, we certainly hope so, and that's my next question, because one of my WhatsAppers is asking. Unfortunately, she joined your presentation late, so she wanted to know if she missed this in terms of how the Caribbean can facilitate Industry 4.0, even in our relatively, should I say, behind the curveball stage. We are behind the curveball in terms of Industry 4.0, but how can we facilitate some of the services that you refer to?
So firstly, let me say this, that I would say 99% of the world is behind the curve. So no major issues there. The question is how much behind the curve is anybody, right?
Okay.
Because everything is moving very fast. Okay. Now, if I as a region want to take advantage of it, first what I need to do is to figure out what I think is my strength. If you're looking at Caribbean and you say, okay, I think I can do very well in the BPO industry, and that's a discussion already going on with the UWI management. Or I think tourism is a great opportunity for the Caribbean, right? Now, let's say it is tourism. We've talked enough about the BPO industry. Let's assume
Right.
that tourism can be a major pillar in the Caribbean, right?
Of
Now,
course.
A, you need to promote it. No, that is obvious. B, how do you give how do you give that big bang to prospective tourists? if I was there, I would create visuals based on augmented reality. If I
Augmented
want to
reality.
visit the Caribbean and I get a visual, a video or whatever, a stream,
Right.
which lets me sit, within, let's say in some part of Jamaica, on a street in Jamaica or in a cafeteria or a restaurant and experience that, I would want the real thing. So augmented reality is one thing you can immediately take advantage of if you're doing tourism, right? And then there are many, many other things. For example, how do you make a tourist's life seamless for his travel? Getting on the aircraft,
Right.
getting off the aircraft. So you can use that, use the processes of 4.0 for that.
Right. One of the things you said in your presentation, Dr. Rohit, was the fact that Industry 4.0 is an economy of and in itself. Can you explain this briefly for those who have just joined us?
Yeah, so I'll draw your mind back to the early part of the presentation. Yeah. How did Industry 4.0 actually come about? It's a chicken and egg story. See,
Okay.
we are the consumers. We want things, we want them instantly. We all have dreams, right? Earlier, those were very personal issues. If I dreamt of owning a Mustang car, which is bright yellow, I knew it and maybe a couple of my friends knew it. But today I talk about it because I'm connected to 10 other people.
Right.
And if those companies are connected on that internet and which they are, and looking at my conversations, they know exactly what I want.
Precisely.
Right? So what is happening is that it's not that manufacturing is creating the demand. It is we who is creating the demand, and manufacturing is using 4.0 to satisfy that demand.
Right.
That is one.
It's
Secondly,
customer driven.
yeah, and the business model has changed. When the business model changes, it affects the economy. With a changing business model, the government changes, practices change. I don't know how updated people in the West Indies may be about accounting practices, but there's something called a triple bottom line approach which is coming in,
Okay.
where they don't look at they're not going to look at your financial performance only. They're going to look at three aspects of it. That's a changing business model.
Okay.
Okay, that's how it affects the economy. I'm sorry.
No problem. All right. So, and there are other things I noticed in your presentation as well, like robotics and 3D printing and so on. How easily accessible is this type of technology to developing countries?
Look, as I understand it, and let me give you an example, right? You want a 3D printer, go to Amazon, you'll get it for $300, $400,
Right.
delivered in 1 week, right?
There you
You
go.
want to make a robot, you can get kits for $100, right? You want a factory robot, can be ordered. So the availability of the technology at the level it is today is extremely high, right? What is behind the curve, in my opinion, is that the adoption is a little slow.
Right. The adoption is slow, but the technology is definitely available.
Yeah, it's available. It's available.
All right. We have 5 more minutes. So if you are joining us on Facebook and you have any questions, you can send them through for Dr. Rohit, and we will definitely ask him those questions for you. I also wanted to take you up on another point that you made, and that had to do, let's go back to the whole issue of competencies. You had a really interesting comparison between 2015 and 2020 in terms of the competencies. I think you said it was the World Bank or one of these agencies.
World Economic Forum.
I want the World Economic Forum, right. And then you related that to the fact that Whiteboard Labs and UWI Open Campus are combining to offer programs to persons who want to be trained in Industry 4.0. Tell us, how does an individual access these programs?
So the way to do it, these programs are delivered over the web in a blended learning format. So accessibility is not an issue at all. One would need to get in touch with UWI on their portal, register there, get the details from there, and if interested, then enroll for the course. So it's very simple. It's very smooth. Hardly 2 or 3 steps to actually gaining the entry and enrollment.
Okay, so you just need to check the Whiteboard Lab website or social media pages, and you will see the information there for.
Yeah, or drop us a mail and we'll revert back.
There you go. And do you have the email address at hand, Dr. Shipstone?
Yes, it would be Ashish S. Let me put it out in the, Ashish, can you write it in the chat box, please?
Oh yeah, certainly. And we will post that as well. Actually, he can put it in the Facebook comment section for, yeah, there you go. Ashish at COLLABZO.com, and Ashish is ASHISHS at collabozo.com, and it's COLLABZO.com. All right. So, Dr. Ritt, I just want to give you the final word as we wrap up. The last word to the people of the Caribbean as it relates to Industry 4.0.
Well, that's a big requirement for me, but yeah. See, everyone wants their country to move ahead, wants the country to gain importance, wants the country to have a foothold in the world economy. Everybody wants, right? Everybody is also responsible for it. So in a world economy of I 4.0, if I want my country to be a participant, first I have to be convinced that I want to participate in it. Mm-hmm. First I have to be trained. Each one of us, when we think like that, then we are creating a workforce of which my country can take advantage then. So coming to the Caribbean, I would say you have a lot of strengths. You have a lot going for you. You've got a very high per capita income. You have a very high sense of affordability, and you are very open to education. So equip yourself with knowledge, understanding, and practices of 4.0, business side as well as technology side, both sides. Both go hand in hand. And that's what I would like to leave you with. The sooner people do that as a country, the sooner they become very active participants in that economy.
There you go. And of course, in collaboration with the Open Campus, we can also provide this type of training for companies or organizations who may have a cohort of their employees who they would like to train in this area. Just putting that out there for you.
Yes, yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yes,
wonderful.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
No, no, I said you're absolutely right. That's wonderful.
Right. So you can contact us at the Open Campus as well. Our email address, marketing@open.uw.edu. And of course, we will be able to link you up with our colleagues who deal with training and development. And Dr. Shipstone, we have another session slated for Thursday, 10th December, where we will look at another topic in Industry 4.0. And I hope you in our audience can join us then. I would like to thank you, the audience, for joining us tonight, and thank you for all your questions and comments. And special thanks, of course, to Dr. Rohit Shipstone, the CMO of Whiteboard Labs, for facilitating this session. And of course, we could not do this without our technical support. So